I'm not being in, but given we have two Jamies, we'll have, this one's JP, that one's Jamie, if that's all right. Not a question I think I've ever asked either of you, and I've interviewed you both a fair few times, but we'll start with Jamie. Where did it all begin? When did you first start playing rugby league?
I started playing rugby league when I moved in next door to two rugby league players called Andrew and Dean Bastow. And to be honest with you, I was about 7 years old then, and I didn't really like rugby. I'd never played rugby, didn't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I liked football. And they were the biggest kids in the street, so they decided what we played. And I got an involuntary education in rugby league. And it was one of them where, obviously, I used to play football, and we used to line up on the wall and you'd give each other names. And same at rugby, but I didn't know any rugby players were. And they said, you've got two choices, you can be Martin Fire or Ellery Hanley. And I said, are they good players? They said, yeah, they're great players. And I thought that's why they used to give me those two choices. But whenever we played football, they always had to be John Barnes, so I had a good idea what they looked like. But those two guys played at Stanley, and that's my first amateur club. I started playing rugby league obviously on the pitch, the grass. We had a big patch of grass outside our house, so I had the opportunity and the environment to play. And then one day at Bramley CV, which was my primary school, a guy called Brian Sowden, who I'm sure has been influential with both James here, and he was doing an after-school coaching session. Saw that I could play a bit of rugby, I was quite big. He invited me along to Stanley that weekend. He said, bring your boots, lad, Saturday morning. Took them with me and never looked back. I loved it to bits, and just a great opportunity to get in a club with some great friends and play a great game.
When did you realise that you weren't too bad at it either?
Well, it's funny, I had a testimonial in 2009, and incidentally the same year JP had his last testimonial. He gets one every 3 years for some reason. He's having a testimonial next year for his contribution to testimonials. Basically, when I was a kid, I was born in August, so there's this relative age effect that JP he flagged it up really. I was youngest in the year, so technically a lot of kids when I go coaching now, the youngest in the years are the smallest. I was just that big and strong, and I see it in my boys now. I've got 4 boys, my oldest 2, Laura and Dax. It's embarrassing what they do on sports day. They're just that good, they're that athletic, that sporting. The second one in particular, Dax, he'll beat everybody in his year and in year above. In fact, last sports day they come home and I think they had 5 firsts and 2 seconds. And I sat them down, so I was quite disappointed with seconds. And I said, what's going on here, lads? And to be fair, the reason why they've got 1 at seconds is because we're both in the same race. So one of them had to get a second. And the other one was because my oldest one, Laura, was in a race and it must have only been 20 metres apart. And there was a bowl full of water. Great activity made up by teachers. And there was another bowl full of water. And the kids had to line up. What they had to do was fill the cup up with water, run to other bowl and fill that up, come back and just keep filling it up with water. And whoever got the most in the jug at the end won. But to make it a little bit harder, teachers put holes in the bottom of all the cups. So my lad sets off and he's got it and he's running down, he's going, Dad, there's an hole in this one. And he puts it in, I'm off and says, there's supposed to be an hole in it. But he was that concerned with winning. He won't listen, he's, Dad, and he threw this cup, went and got another one. And there's an hole in this one as well. He ended up finishing second in that because he was too busy moaning about that. It shows the competitiveness. And I was very similar. So any sport that I played, you know, whether it be throwing wellies in sports day, playing rounders, I wanted to hit it out of the ground. And I just knew that if people knew that if I was on their team, I was probably going to win in primary school anyway. And that's how I met a lot of my friends. So regardless of what game I played, football, and it really helped in classroom as well. I wanted to, if I did a maths test, I wanted to be near the top. Whenever a name or a list was written out, I wanted to have my name near the top, so I knew if I could do that. Or at the time I thought, quite in an idolatrous kind of way, really bad, really. When I look and I got older, some of the things I've done, getting older, try to win. Jamie might tell you about later.
Yeah, like we have to do wrestling in training all the time, and when Jones is in there, it's like an intensity bomb's been dropped in there, and it feels like he's fighting for his life rather than we're just practicing training, and we come away with gouged eyes and fingers broken.
One of those things I ever did was in wrestling. I still feel bad about it now. Kyler Lillywhite, strongest bloke you're ever going to come across. He used to bench press 200 kgs with ease. He's getting older now. He don't try as hard. He's never really tried that hard, to be honest with you. But he likes to win as well in wrestling. And he once got me and I couldn't move. And I didn't matter what I did, I couldn't move. And my face was right next to him. And I thought, I need to make him react here. I don't know, I need to put him off so I can move and try and get him. and I like did this little spit, like that. And I know it's awful, it's disgusting. And he moved, and I got him, and he still dominated me, he still beat me. And then afterwards, he said, "Did you just spit at me?" I went, "Oh mate, I am so sorry. It's the worst thing I've ever done." I was texting him all night, saying, "I'm really sorry." I just love playing whatever sport, but rugby league is one where being big at the time really helps. It's physical, and unlike other sports like tennis or football, if somebody gets you, you can get them back fairly later on. You can be physical with it, can rag them about, put a big shot on and get them back. So I've always loved rugby league, I've always stuck with it.
Where did you start out?
Yeah, but my tail's probably not as long as that. I was 5 years old at school, Stanley Primary, and one of the kids I went to school with brought a letter in. "Do you want to come down and play for the same club as Jamie Jones, Stanley? It's 10p a week to come down and play." And I took the letter home to my dad, asked, can I play? And he took me down there, and I just got the love from the game from then. I played it with Andy Bastow, one of the lads he's talking with. He played in the same age group as me, and I can agree with Jonesy, he was a big lad too as well. But yeah, that's how I started, pretty simple, and started the same club and loved the game from a 5-year-old.
Your journey was a little trickier though, wasn't it? I mean, you ended up having to go down under to make the grade, so to speak.
Yeah, I've got a weird old journey to the top, really, I suppose. To end up going on Captain England, I think. I was a bit of a tearaway as a young lad. I used to get into a few scrapes and a bit of trouble, and I stopped playing when I was 14. A firework went off on my foot, burnt on my foot, like you do when you're 14, and I quit playing for about a year. Then I came back at 16, started playing again. And not all the lads normally get signed at 16 years old. You'll have got signed at 16, and I didn't get signed up with all the players who were the same age as me, the peers who were 16 years old. But I kept playing because I liked playing. I liked playing with Stanley. I liked playing with my teammates, and so I played for the under-18s at Stanley, and I played for the open age team as well. But then, when I was 17 years old, something miraculous happened. I got contact lenses. All right. So I'm incredibly short-sighted. Going back, if you sat in the front row then, I won't be able to see what your facial expression was. So I got contact lenses, and I saw who to run into and who not to run into when I was 17. And then, probably about 6 months after I got contact lenses, I got signed. Wakefield Trinity came down, actually, and watched me play. And they asked me to go for a trial with them. And I'd left school, I was working, so I went for a trial with Wakefield Trinity. Had 2 games with them, and one of them was against Bradford, the team I ended up signing for. And they asked me, "Do you want to sign and go with us?" And the money they offered was probably 10% of what I was earning as a job. So I said, "I can't do that, I can't leave it for that." So I kept playing again, and then Bradford Bulls came down and watched me, and they said, "Do you want to come for a trial with the academy?" So I agreed, went up and trialled with the academy. And I trialled for 13 weeks for them before they offered me a contract. So 13 weeks I had to play for them while I was working, and then they offered me a contract. I had to leave my job. It was half what I was getting paid. But I thought, you know what, I don't want to be these guys in a pub 4 years down the line saying I could be one of these on the TV. So I decided to make the leap of faith and left work and signed for the Bradford Bulls. But then I signed for the Bradford Bulls, and even then was a tricky journey to the top. As Tanya said, I went to Australia. What happened was, that was in 1996, played for the academy. In 97, played for the A team. And the beginning of 1998, Matty Elliott, who was the coach, he said to me, "You're not quite ready to play first team for the Bradford Bulls." So I went, "Okay, fair enough." He goes, "You can go 2 places this year on loan. You can either go to Dewsbury or you can go to Sydney in Australia." So 5 minutes later, I've decided to go to Sydney. And I got to Sydney, but Sydney didn't work out for me. It was pretty tough in Sydney. I was out there 7 months. And there's a guy out there, Greg Mackey, who's just recently passed away. He coached, he played at Hull, played at Warren, and he coached me out there. And me and him clashed all the time. But what he was trying to install in me was the mental side of the game, the mental toughness side of the game. Looking back on it now. So I was out there 7 months, but my job fell through when I got out there. I was supposed to work with this building company. That company went bust, right? So I was skint. I had no money. I was living on people's floors, someone's front room floor. And I was that skint, I was living on noodles, noodles that you get 5 days a week. Those super noodles, and if you're eating them 5 days a week, they're not that super, honestly. So I was there like 7 months, and then I come back from Australia. Matt Elliott, the coach, said to me, he says, "We're not sure whether we want to keep you after all I've been through, after all they promised me." He said he'd ring me every week. He rung me twice in 7 months when I was out there. So I've got back, and he put me on loan at Featherstone. I played 4 games for Featherstone, then came back again, and he said, "Oh, I spoke to the board, we're not going to keep you, we're going to let you go. So I was absolutely devastated. I thought, wow, I've been through all this and you're just going to cut me like this. So I spoke to Brian Noble, who was the assistant coach, and he went and spoke to the board because he had a long history of being at the Bradford Bulls. And they said, we'll give you a contract 1 more year. And so then I thought, right, this is it. I am in the last chance saloon here. And I never trained so hard in all my life. And I had to win 13 man of matches in a row for the A team before I got picked in the first team, and then finally made my debut in '99. So in the end, I probably spoke as long as you, Jones, in there, but that's my tale in getting to the first team.
Do you think the hardship that you went through, that whole journey, created the player that you have become?
Yeah, I believe. I've heard Richard Branson say it recently. There's no such thing as failure. I don't believe there is, as long as you learn something out of it. And I think all the hardships I had along the way, and all the knockbacks and all the setbacks, just put me, it just made me more determined and allowed me developed a skill set to be able to deal with upset and deal with. Not getting your way. You know, we have a lot of problem with, just going on a different subject, we have a lot of problem with the really good kids who come through is because they've never been said no. You know, we get them come through, best player at 15s, best player at 16s, best player at 17s, getting first team, 25th best player, probably 200th best player in the country. And when they get told no, you're not in the team, they can't handle it because they've not developed the skill set through the 3 or 4 years building up into that to be able to deal with setbacks and losses. And I'm eternally grateful now for the grounding that it gave me and that ability, my bounce back ability, to get back and get on with things.
So you had a relatively straightforward journey, didn't you, once you actually got within a club?
Yeah, I guess so. I did okay till I got to about 15. Signed for Leeds when I was 15, and then I think my tough journey, the delayed gratification, if you like, was when I was 18 and I got a really bad groin injury. And basically I pulled the long adductor off my pelvis and it pulled some bone off as well, and it was really odd. I don't know how I did it, but when I went and did the scans of the MRIs, it said it was like...
Don't go into too much detail.
No, it said it was like when a motorcyclist has a crash and slides up the petrol tank, my hip had come right away. It was probably from too many squats and too much weights that we were doing at the time. And I had the best part of 2 years, I had 2 hernia operations on my abdominals and my groin. And I went from that person that JP's talking about there, that has a lot of yeses, to somebody who just couldn't even get out on the field. And at the time, I thought, I'm going to have to retire, go home, just cry my eyes out. I think the journey's finished here before it's even started. But I was really lucky at the time. I had a coach called Dean Bell, who was an unbelievable coach. He was all about mental toughness. I had a great club in the Rhinos, and Gary who would give me every chance, give me every medical opportunity to get back right. And through that chance, by God's grace, I managed to just keep working hard and really put myself in. I remember being at times when I was stood in the shower thinking, contract runs out next year, it has to happen, you know, I've got to get fit, I've got to do all my rehab, I've got to get as strong as I can. I was never as quick or as agile, and I turned into a bit of a grafter, which was fair enough, but I just had to make it happen. And I think I've learnt a lot from JP. You can see his mental toughness in his games, you know, the carries that he takes, tackles that he makes, phenomenal. And you know, he takes his carries, he takes about a quarter of mine as well. I always have to chase around pitch. But I've just heard a stat downstairs, if you don't mind me telling him. That in his time at Leeds, he's had enough carries to get him from here to Wembley, from Leeds to Wembley. It's a fair old day. That's
I wish I'd known that one for last night.
I'm just,
we'll remember that for the opening Super League show.
My carries are just passing Sheffield. But I think the difference between me and Jamie is he sent me a quote not too long ago. I think it was George Bernard Shaw, was it? Yeah. Talked about the unreasonable man and forcing an environment to suit you. So if it's not working for you, you've got to make it happen. I've always been a little bit different in that I'm a little bit more passive. Also one in a Bruce Lee book. Bruce Lee talked about being like water. Water can fit in any vessel. One of the analogies I give to kids is I'm a bit like a goldfish. If you've ever had a goldfish, the reason why they have goldfish at fairgrounds is because they live forever in black little plastic bags, and you can put them in a warm tank, cold tank. You know, kids can take them out. I once had a goldfish. I was watching a film, and it jumped out. It was in my bedroom. It jumped out on the floor, and I've looked at it. I says to my girlfriend, I said, "That's goldfish on the floor there." And I thought I must have rolled over it because it looked dead flat. It was covered in like carpet. And I thought, I'll put it back, when it's obviously dead, I'll sort it out when it's finished film. And I finished this film, honestly, I know it sounds pretty cruel, And afterwards, I went and picked it up, and it just started jiggling about. Put it back in the tank, still alive. Like, absolutely resilient. And for me, no matter what coach I've been in, what team I've been in, I've always tried to, whatever environment I've had, to try and fit myself around that and work out that, get ahead. But when I talk to young kids, I talk about that delayed gratification, that if you're not willing to make sacrifices, to make the tough decisions in life, and be willing to work hard for something that's not going to reward you straight away. They're all playing on the phones on Candy Crush now, and everybody wants that sugar, whether it be eating sugar or that mental sugar in their mind. They want that instant gratification, but the things that are really worthwhile take a long time to come.
Could you pop round to my house and just have a chat with the teenage son for an hour or so? I'm trying. We'll get to the Leeds Academy and the group that's come through, but the Bradford team you were in, under Brian Noble, was a pretty special time as well, wasn't it? I mean, what made that group a special group, do you think?
I think there was a good mix. I think any good team needs a good mix of different characters. I think if you're all the same, it doesn't work. I think that's in any environment. And I think at the time at Bradford, we had a good core of players which John's used the word, which are grafters, which their game was based around working hard, doing all the little extras, training harder than anybody else, playing harder than everybody else. And they perhaps weren't the prettiest players to watch, but the ones as a player you come through, you admired the most. And then you'd have your show players like Robbie Paul, Leslie Vinicola, Shontaine Harp, Leon Price, the players who could break games open. And we had a really good mix between those two. And I feel part of my grounding, I was very fortunate to come through with these hard-nosed professionals that had come from. I talk like Brian McDermott, our coach, Jimmy Lowes, Bernard Dwyer, Mike Forshaw. They made the transition probably from a blue-collar job where you had to work as hard as you possibly could to becoming a full-time professional, and they brought that work ethic with them into the sport, and it was easy for me to see that. So an example would be Bernard Dwyer. If he didn't play if he played less than 60 minutes, the first thing it would be, you'd see him at 7 o'clock Monday morning, in an hour before everybody else, on a rowing machine, trying to train as hard as he could, trying to make himself as fit as he possibly could. And for me, that was a great grounding of what it takes to become a professional player. And I think because of all that, we ended up winning quite a lot of stuff at Bradford. I was very fortunate to be a good club full of good people.
Where do you get, though, that winning mentality? How do you get a team on a roll? Because you picked up an immense amount of silverware in the same way that Leeds have gone on to do sort of afterwards.
I think winning mentality is just a lot of smaller. I think for me, it's a lot of small areas. You've got to have people that want to beat everybody else, like Jonesy. You want to be the best at what you want to do. You want to beat everybody else. You want to beat everybody in your team. You want to beat your teammates. And I think the more people you have in your team like that creates a really competitive environment and creates a team that's competitive, that won't lose and refuses to lose. And I think just moving on from the Bradford one to the Leeds one, I think we became quite renowned for winning a lot of games late on in games, because we had that competitive element. There were probably 8 or 9 of us who just refused to lose. It just would not be on our radar to want to lose. We want to win. I think that's a crucial part of it. I think the self-sacrifice, going above and beyond what you're asked to do. You know, I think there's a saying comes out of the Leeds club, which is the same at Bradford, is that you probably spend 25 hours a week training, you know, at the club. But for me, a rugby league player, it's 24/7, 365 days a year. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And to lead the lifestyle of a successful rugby league player means a lot of self-sacrifice away from the sport and making the right decisions. And one of my favourite sayings for me is that if someone's not pissed off with me in my local circle or people around me, like my family and friends, then I'm probably not being the best rugby league player. And that's something I've got used to and learned to have thick skin over the years. And I always tell them, you know, I'll be finished playing soon, and 20 years later I keep saying that to them. So they're pretty angry with it. So basically self-sacrifice and hard work are the two things I think are key for any team that wants to go out and win.
What for you is it like coming through with the group of players that's come through that academy? What was the atmosphere like?
It was brilliant. I think going back to when I was in the academy with Dean Bell, I think that was probably the time when a lot of the guys who've really come to fruition, this nucleus, this core, if you like, myself, Kev Sinfield, obviously Ryan Bailey's just gone, Danny Maguire, Rob Burrow, and there's a lot, we're going to meet a lot tomorrow night, you know, Calderwood and Chev Walker, Danny Ward at the reunion that we're having, the Civic Hall. And, you know, for me, I went through that injury period, so I was one of the older ones, a bit like Kev Sinfield. And, you know, we were like that from being 12 years old, like my best friend. And just in terms of, I was being a bit like, I was describing myself a bit of a pirate. I was trying to take the best bits out of everybody. You know, if I want to do some speed and agility, you do it with Rob Burrow. If you want to do some strength work, you do it with Kylie. But Kevin Timfield, out of all the people I've ever come across in my life, is probably the one person that I've assimilated most from, most knowledge, most experience, because he's the most professional human being I'd ever come across, and obviously very, very close. So I was looking, you know, I think sometimes when you read books about successful people, Steve Jobs or anybody really, they talk about coming through at a special time and having some really fortunate experiences, and I was the same. We had Graham Murray, who'd almost laid the path, the foundations, if you like. He'd built this team overnight with Yestin Harris and Adrian Morley in 98, 99, that had glimpses of being really successful. So as a club, me being in a Leeds Rhinos spot all my life as well, as a club you started to see that there's some success growing. And then Gary Etherington come, put this youth system in place, really believed in the youth that we had in the local area, and brought us through. And we all got our opportunities, some sooner than others. I had to wait that extra 2 years because of the injury. But when I come through, you know, it's been an unbelievable journey. You know, something that I've learned, particularly after winning that this year, is the old Winston Churchill quote: "Success is never final, defeat's never fatal. It's a career to continue that counts." And every year we've learned something new from each coach, with Tony Smith, Brian McLennan, Brian McDermott. And I sat down in Jacksonville last week, and we watched a video that's coming out really soon of the golden decade, the last 10 years. And I had to pinch myself watching it. It was like just unbelievable. I'm thinking, I can't believe I've been a part of that. It's like, you know, when you watch documentaries on astronauts that go to the moon and stuff like that, this group of people have this really special experience. You think, wow, it'd be great to be a part of that. That's how I felt looking back. And I guess because I'm still living it in a way, I won't fully appreciate it yet until maybe it's 10, 20 years time, 30 years time at a reunion when I'm sat around with Rob Burrow, you know, whose nose will carry on growing and his ears will get bigger and his head will get smaller, like little Gollum. And I sit with those guys and I look back and think, wow, you know, how special is that I've been a part of. Every little bit of it's been a learning journey. We've learned something new every time, but I don't think you ever get fed up winning. And obviously, hopefully, God willing, I'll have 2 more years left at least, and I want to get a few more in there.
What would he say about you? We probably heard when you're not here. If he says that about Rob.
I was just thinking, I think Robbie looks more like Dobby out of Harry Potter than Robert. That's what I was thinking. No, I agree with him. It's been, you know, I watched that same 40-minute documentary that they put together, and it was just an unbelievable watch. To sit there and watch it, and but I felt a bit. Do you know what? I felt a bit. What's the word? Dirty watching it, because I thought I don't want to sit in my achievements just right now. I don't want to sit here and watch it all because there's a bit more to go yet. I think I'll enjoy it more when I finished playing, because I sat there thinking it's good this, but these chapters still unwritten here, and I want to keep writing more chapters.
That keeps John, my producer, in work anyway, so he'll be delighted to hear that. For you, obviously, you made the decision to leave Bradford and come to Leeds. Was that a tough decision, or was it a no-brainer for you?
No, it was an incredible, difficult decision. I was captain of the Bulls in my last season in 2005. I always wanted to come and play for my hometown club. I supported from the South Stand when I was a lot younger. From 4 till probably 14, used to come and watch, and I saw what was going on at the Rhinos. Something exciting was happening with the players. Jonesy was on about coming through under Tony Smith, a lot of young English players, and I thought this would be a good team chance to go over and play for a good team. You know, you want to play for your hometown club, but I think everyone has dreams to do that, but you want to play for a good hometown club, and I think that made the decision easier. So you're not supposed to sign till September, like 2005, but February 2005 I was a Leeds Rhinos player, which brought its own difficulties throughout the year. I had to tell a few of the boys at the Bradford Bulls, you know, I'm not sure what I'm doing, not sure what we're doing. And then one night out, we had the night out after a game, I think in May, and I said, listen, like, I'm leaving, you know, to a few of them. I said, made my mind up, I'm sorry to leave you all, but I want to go play for my own town club. I'd been treated poorly by some of the management of the Bulls, and it's time for me to go. But that ended up being like a catalyst, and like the dominoes started falling, because after that, I think about 6 or 7 or 8 players, I went, well, we're talking with other clubs, we're all going then now. But I finished in the right way. I feel at the Bradford Bulls, you know, won the grand final was the last thing I did for them.
What was it like when he came and joined you then?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I'd not really known much about Jamie. I'd not met him before. I'd heard a lot about him. We've got a lot of similarities. We're obviously both called Jamie, both grew up in Bramley. We even lived in the same street for a while. He moved out before I got there. Both played at the same amateur club. Both really good looking, obviously. I've got a lot of similarities. I'd never met him, and I'd played against him. And wow, I just remember how tough he was. His upper body strength, like torso, I always wanted to try and dominate him as well. Obviously, both from Stanley, I know people from Stanley would be watching, and I could never get him on his back. He just would not finish on his back. So when you get somebody like Jamie Peacock, being international that he is, coming to play for Leeds, it's just a massive strengthener, a big bolster. And JP, you're talking about Kev Sinfield and some of the other inspirational people we've got in our team. I think you've just heard there why he's such an inspirational person, because he picks things out of the air, picks things out of books, shares it with us and says, have a look at this. This will get us through next week, the next year, the next few months. And, Kev Sinfield right up there for one of the reasons why we've won so much silverware, but certainly JP is too.
Grand finals, World Club, it became the norm, quite frankly, Leeds winning. Now I almost got bored doing the montages myself. This, though, was the one that kept eluding you. You'd won it with Bradford. Yeah. You'd obviously not with Leeds. When you talk about the adversity, about believing in yourselves, do you think that's what you had to do last season? I remember doing, was it the St Helens Gate? Well, I remember talking to Brian McDermott, who doesn't generally give he's very honest. He's fascinating to interview. But he said after the game, he said the guys were really nervous going into this one, and it's not so. I was really taken aback that he said it to me. It clearly meant, and had meant for a long time, but last season just seemed to mean even more to you lot. So how did you go on and win it?
Brian is right. We were nervous on the bus going there. I felt that, I've been here before, so I think when people are nervous on a bus, it's not a good sign. So I started taking the piss out of some of the supporters who were walking past, because I just thought, we need to break this now. You can't be nervous going into this game. We need to be. So for the last, I remember on the coach getting up and thinking, this is too nervous. This. So I thought I'll get up and try and break this up a little bit. I think, for me, from the performances, I think the confidence came from the performances, and there's loads of factors going in there. I think we had such a clear game plan from Brian Mack that everyone bought into in the big games that we had to win against St Helens, against Warrington, against Castleford. The game plan was so clear, and we had that much clarity, and I think the boys were just determined to do it. I think they were, especially the guys who'd lost it a few times. I'm sure Jonesy will say, were that determined to do it. It reminded a lot for me, for a guy who come back to Bernard Dwyer again. Bernard Dwyer once spoke before a season, and he'd lost the Challenge Cup 4 times, and he spoke in front of everybody, and this is a tough, working class bloke, and he's not much emotion, and just tell you how it is, and he was in tears, because he said, I'm not having another one of these losers medals, I'm not having one. He threw them all in the bin in front of him and says, these can stay here in Lanzarote. Right, and that year we won the Challenge Cup, and it was his last season. He ended up retiring after the Challenge Cup, and I thought that's the determination I saw in him that I kind of saw in the lads that had lost it a few times before, and I think that's the reason why we went out there and won it.
It's interesting, I've never heard that story before about the medals, but I've lost 4 as well. I had done going up into that, and every time I got a loser's medal, I used to tape it up in black insulation tape, and I'd put it outside the trophy cabinet. It never went in. I never threw them away. I just kept them there as reminders. Obviously, you go away from a game like that and you want to remember how much it hurts and use that as motivation, as energy to get back there and win it next time. But I think JP vouched for me that whether I'm playing in the Challenge Cup final, Grand Final, World Cup Challenge, or I'm playing out here on Boxing Day, I've got to win. I've got to win every game. What event it is makes the difference. I can play a final for Leeds on Stanley Park, and it won't make any difference. I've got to go out there and win. And for me, I've always been one who tries to turn everything into positives, and I was always fascinated by the fact we've won all these grand finals, and chuffed to bits with that. World Cup challenges, beating the best in the world, but never won a Challenge Cup. And I say it on this video that if my rugby league life would have been like a big jigsaw, not winning the Challenge Cup would have been like a missing piece in the middle. And if you went and saw a great jigsaw on the wall and there's one piece missing, that'd be the most interesting piece, funnily enough. Be able to tell all kinds of stories about I've played in this great team, but just never able to win at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon when everybody else in Europe's having a siesta. We always play our games on 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Just couldn't do it. But this particular day, like JP said, We went in with a really special game plan. You know, Brian McDermott absolutely nailed it all the way through. And I think we tried to play like Leeds in all the other Challenge Cup finals. This time, we played a little bit more boring. People said we played boring, but you never get bored of winning. We didn't care how we played, we just wanted to win that cup. And went across, lads executed the semi and the final as good as I've ever seen in a Leeds shirt. And we got the just desserts for it.
What was it like winning it, the way home, the realisation of finally getting it for you?
Yeah, it was, I mean, there's a few pictures, I'm on my knees, all lads are just jumping up and down and I'm just on my knees, like, just giving thanks. And I remember running up them stairs. It's like being a 12-year-old, it's like being a kid at school, just high-fiving everybody. Like, I think Kevin Sinfield mentions it in the video, it's a long walk when you've lost. And a lot of people commiserating you on the way down, and then you've got to stand at the bottom and watch the winners lift it. And when you've been on a journey and then got to a big place like Wembley, especially, and Wembley, the funny thing about Wembley is, if you don't win, it costs you more money than what it does to get there. Because when you got Wembley, your wife wants a new dress, she wants to do her hair, she wants to do her nails. Kids have got to have Jones-Buchanan cut inside of their head. It costs you a fortune. If you go, honestly, if
you don't need to go, you know these gene websites, Family Tree, you don't need to go on them, you just get to Wembley and your family will all come out that you've never seen for ages before anyway.
Yeah. Danny Maguire ordered 42 tickets. And it all comes out of our wages, and we've got to go around Leeds trying to get it back. Nobody wants to pay you when you've lost. And it's a nightmare. So, for all these little reasons, it was brilliant to win. And I remember getting up there, and there was people like Gary Schofield and JP's best mate.
Mate, he shook my hand that day, so it must have meant a lot to him.
And a few other people, and just one of the best moments. But like I said, I could put that jigsaw piece in the middle, but it's been an interesting journey. Nobody's really bothered now the fact we won that, apart from the group of people who won it, and obviously a few Leeds fans. What's important is that we go out and try and win it again. And that's what I realised, success is never final. You just got to keep working hard and pass on that legacy and those experiences to that next generation. And thankfully, we've got a fantastic group of young lads coming into that environment, learning from people like JP and Kev, who hopefully will carry on Leeds, winning trophies for a lot of years to come.
How important to you, with the Leeds Foundation, with the work that both of you do with kids, you referee, don't you? Yeah. And stuff like that. How important for you to pass on the messages, to pass on your story, and to inspire in the way that you were inspired?
I think it's huge. I think Edinburgh Stadium and Leeds Rhinos, Leeds Rugby in fact, and the Leeds Rugby Foundation, they're like a hub for people, not just sports people and rugby players, but for all people of ages and abilities, and be students to come up here and be everything that they can be. And I think that's what anybody can ever want to do. And I've said it a million times before, I think everybody's a bit like a superhero. They've all got special power with them. With me, it's persistence. When it's going well, if it goes wrong, it's stubbornness. I'm stubborn. And what we've got to do is encourage people to come and be all they can be and feed that back to society. I've said it a million times when I've been speaking for the foundation. It reminds me a bit like reading a book, Dante's Inferno. I was reading about Florence in 1500s, and all these people were coming out of Florence. Machiavelli and Cromwell, Thomas Cromwell. There's all the artists, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's Dante. There's all these different people. I thought, all coming out of Florence in this one time. And Florence is, I think it's Latin for flourish or blossom. And the Romans put it there. And it was like this special moment, this special place where these Medicis, like Gary Etherington, come and they with all the money. And Gary's like this big tyrant figurehead that puts all the money in the organisation together. And all these people have created so much, whether it be art or philosophy, and made a massive influence in and around Europe over the last 300, 400, 500 years. And I think Edinburgh, to me, in my own silly little mind, is very similar. I sit there up in the stand now, and I'm there as a trustee at Leeds Rugby Foundation, and I see all the kids from amateur clubs, whether it be Stanley, Milford, East Leeds, Ulton, coming up, enjoying, playing on the pitch, watching their heroes, right, being inspired by them. And I say that because I'm there with a father's hat on as well, because my son is on there playing, and I see seeing Jamie Peacock and Johnny Warehouse who works for the foundation, all the work that they put into and what it does for them. We've got all these people who come to support the club from all different backgrounds, from different organisations, and just bringing everything that they are to the club. And I've just had so much. I always joke, Phil Kaplan's in there. I'm from Bramley, I couldn't even read very well when I come to Leeds, and probably 50% of my vocabulary's come from Phil. Just the things and the opportunities that we've had to learn. And so for me, now that I've experienced that, I think it's really important as a professional, while I can, to give back and feed that into the community and make Leeds are the best city that it can be.
And just finally, JP, do you think that's what's made this club in the last 10 years, the golden decade, that kind of philosophy?
Wow. I just think the club's been made on good people, really. I think that's the thing that, for me, thinking about the last 60 minutes or however long we've talked, is that there's been a hell of a lot of good people here. Would that be the players, or the backroom staff, the coaches, the people who work here? And I think the values that they possess, certainly the players, I think, you know, rugby league's, I love rugby league because of the values it can give people in life, and I don't think many sports have that ability to present great values. You know, look at teamwork, hard work, working hard, and also the fact, I think many walks of life now, things are too easy. It's about taking shortcuts, whereas in rugby league, you take a shortcut, you get found out, you fail in rugby league. And I think basically a lot of human society is set up to take shortcuts. You think of like the car get invented, emails, and all these kind of things are set up to make life easier, whereas rugby league goes against all that. And I think that's why I like it, because it gives you the values that you have to work hard to succeed at anything. And I think Leeds have been really lucky that over the last 10 years, they've had a lot of players, a lot of public figures that just embrace those values of working hard. We haven't had I don't think we've had the greatest players. We've not had the greatest flair players over the last 10 years. We've never won a Man of Steel in the last 10 years. But I think that's a bigger compliment for the club than it is a negative, because I think it's just been built on such a great team, and it's the teams are more of some of the part than the individuals. It's not been down to one flash individual like a Rangi Chase. It's been built on solid people with great values, and I think that's the reason why we've been successful over the last few years.
It's over to you, folks.
I think a lot of money corrupts. I think money corrupts people. I think it's. I think a lot of people, if they have a lot of money, you end up it attracts people with the wrong values and wrong ethics. I think you see that in any walk of life. You see that in banking, don't you? A lot of money in banking. There's a lot of people there with, you'd say, are quite immoral, and I think the same has happened with the amount of money that's gone into football. I reckon football 30 years ago probably had a lot better family values than it does now, and I think the money's the root cause of that.
Are you a bit jealous, though, of how much they earn?
No, it is what it is, and I don't begrudge them one little bit, if I'm honest with you. Don't bother me. I think if people are in a sport or a workplace where you can earn a lot of money, then you reap what you sow, and they will reap what they sow. We see a lot of footballers getting a lot of money, they don't know what to do with it. They haven't got a clue. But I don't think, not all of them, some of them are pretty smart as well. Obviously, rugby league players don't tend to be that bothered about money. Though JP's just been downstairs and he's just been ticket off to find out how many he's sold for Sunday.
Yeah, do you know what
Is it 6,500? He said if he gets to 10, he's retiring on Monday. So
that's 6 inches of snow today, but it's just frightened me a little bit.
Kyle had otherwise been into him all day about lads don't want to play if it's snowing, and he's panicking. And that bloke in that first letter is right. You do live in a big house.
I didn't then.
He used to live in Bramley, then started earning a few quid, went to Carvery. I'm still in Bramley, so I'm just getting on with what I've got.
Next question.
I think at the elite level, if you lose that little edge, which we certainly did, I thought at the back end, then you don't win. And I think the focus was such on Wembley. Before we got to Wembley, we lost a few games, and then we came out of that. And I think we nearly beat St Helens with 12 men for 60 minutes. And I think if we'd have got that game, then it had all been totally different. I think now, looking back at it now, there were so many fine margins in our results at the back end. If they'd have gone the other way, we could have quite easily won the final. But we didn't. I think we used our luck in the Challenge Cup. I think, you know, Tom Briscoe keeps all of that ball. I think we go all the way to the grand final then. And I think, you know, the Saints game where we hung on for 60 minutes with 12 men, I think showed how good a side we were still, and I think we dealt with it, but we just like that killer instinct for me.
I think as well that because of the Challenge Cup, because of what we've been through to get there, it was almost like you had this perception, if we get there, we've done it, whatever it is. And it was like this top of this mountain, tip of the iceberg. And it did, a few of us, it probably ruined us a little bit. I think winning it, you know, people will say, I'm not bothered if you don't win out else if you, as long as we win Challenge Cup, everybody's really happy. And being Leeds fans as well, and Leeds boys, when we won that Challenge Cup, the amount of emotional energy that goes into something like that, coming into it and coming out of it, was phenomenal. And it's the first time I've experienced it as well. And like JP said, if you just lose that 5-10%, but of that emotional energy that gets burned up, then you're going to struggle, and we just didn't quite have what it took to carry on. Success does breed success. I think a lot of that success is mentality. I don't think we'll have, I hope we don't have a problem next year, but physically and mentally, rugby league's a game where you've got to be at 90% all the time, otherwise you're just going to get bullied, and we just got bullied a bit that back end.
Did it surprise you how much it took out of you?
It did surprise me, yeah. You know, some of the lads, the way they reacted was brilliant. You know, we were just over the moon with it, and so much fuss got made of it. You talk about celebrating the cup. After when we finished, we got both back to the hotel, and we had a bit of a formal sort of night after that. We sort of spoke to sponsors, and it was brilliant. They've been through us all this journey. And then we were back on bus the next day. I remember it being pretty quick into that next game. You know, the St Helens, it was almost like, we'll celebrate this at end of year type thing, and we just cracked on. But as I said, I'd never won a Challenge Cup. It's weird how it's just before, the timing is just before the playoffs and then obviously the grand final as well. It's not an easy time to win something and then carry on as well.
We're trying to shift it, honestly.
I know. Well, that's it, innit? They're talking with BBC scheduling, but
we wanted to shift it. We want it moved.
But in the past, whenever we've won something, like a grand final, that's it. It's the end of the season, we all go for his holidays. Some lads go for internationals, but that was the end of it. But obviously, the Challenge Cup was different. If we ever get a chance to do it again, we'll know now. I think our senior players are really evident, and I sit there because I can't get a word in edgeways with JP and Kev. They do. I think with any idea in the world, any idea in life, an idea is only as good as the amount of people that will buy into it. So if you can have the best idea in the world, if people don't buy into it, then it's rubbish because it's not going to get implemented. So that's key. And Brian McDermott is one of the smartest blokes I've met. He understands that he needs his senior players and his whole team to buy into it. So a lot of the ownership on what we do is given to the lads as well. What do you think? You know, it's not a dictatorship. This is how we're doing it, and all doctrinal. You know, a lot of our training is based on our coaches giving us the opportunity to say what we think. Obviously, we've got great leaders, JP and Kev, and Danny Maggs and Rob Burrow, and they all put their bit forward, and the lads buy into it. We've got an unbelievably good culture in that regard.
I think that's something that you see throughout sport. I remember reading, I think it was Ancelotti when he was in charge of Chelsea. He didn't say to the Chelsea team, you know, this is what we're going to win this year. He sat the senior players down and said, right, what do you think we can win this year? Because if they own the goals and they're part of it, then you're twice as likely to succeed than rather than saying this is what you will do. I found throughout my time that the style of coaching where you get everybody to be on board because they feel it's their idea as well is the one that leads to the most success. I think the teams, obviously every Great Britain team I've been involved in has been different from year to year, different individuals, and the ability to get those team players to play together, that's the skill of being an international coach, I think. That's the ultimate skill of it. And I think the ones that I've been that have been the closest together have been the ones that have been the most successful. So the ones which have got to Four Nations finals and been ultimately beat by a better team. You know, I think with Great Britain sometimes you do have to know we are the underdog, and if we get to a final and beat Australia, it's the underdog beating the favourite. And I think then the one that stands out for me that where we were split was the 2008 World Cup, where we were probably split as a team, and you could tell that within the results of the team. I think Steve McNamara's done a very good job of trying to bring players together with that, right? Setting some. Again, we had after the 2008 World Cup, we got together with some management people and came up with some values that we thought would be key for Great Britain and England going forward. Because one of the fallout from the 2008 World Cup was that same reason, that the team wasn't together enough. So we sat down at an RAF base and was pretty frank. Everyone was pretty frank with each other about where the club needed to go. We need to create the club environment where you have the ability to be honest with somebody and they not take offence with that. And I think that's been cleared up over the last few years. I think, without doubt, I think they're probably as close a team as you'll ever get. I thought they were just unlucky in the last series. I thought, you know, they were just unlucky. Sometimes you are in sport, aren't they, unfortunately? Well, dramatically, yeah, hugely. I think we used to be trained for just too long. You train for 2.5 hours at 6 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, whereas now it's 50 minutes on the field at 9.5 out of 10 intensity, and I think that's the key area of change has been the introduction of sports science. I think it's just a hell of a lot more professional and concise with what you're doing, rather than like sticking your finger in the air for the wind. You know exactly what you're doing, and it's very scientific.
Yeah, I know for me, as I've always done that bull at gate, you know, I've just gone in there, flown in, and last year in particular, every time I did it, I got injured, and muscles were tearing, joints were getting sore, things that I'd never done before. And I've had to really taper it down now and be a lot smarter with what I eat, you know, how I sleep. I talk to JP a lot, obviously, getting to nearly 50-year-old. How do you keep doing it? You know, and he talks about stretching and ice baths. And as he said, the medical work that goes in, every morning when we go in on a morning, we have to do a lot of stretching tests. We used to measure our grips, our flexibility in our ankle and knee joints, and we have to score that all down, the quality of sleep, how we're feeling, as upper body soreness, lower body soreness, and if the whole group looks to be down on the measurement jump test, then they'll taper training back even more. We're GPS units, so they know exactly how far we're travelling. They know that if we travel above a certain distance in a week, that we're not going to perform well on the weekend because the trend shows we don't, so they'll taper it back at the end. And they're really smart, right, really, now that we're monitoring that and making sure that we're always at our peak. In fact,
who was it who put the GPS on their dog?
Leon Price.
Oh, I don't know.
Leon, they give him an heart rate monitor to go away and do some work, and he's put it on his dog.
Sounds like
he went for a walk.
I've done that. I've jumped in the car and gone home with it still on. I've done like 20 odd mile a day. But yeah, no, they're looking after us a lot now, and it's really good. And I think that's why you get players playing a bit longer than they used to.
It's based around fact, and not opinion anymore. You know, like a lot of things, whether you can train well or how you feel in training or how long the training is, it's based on like scientific fact rather than you need to do, you know, my opinion of it rather than guessing at it.
He wants to run game, it was Nigel Wood's job.
Yeah, look, I've gone to university now and to get myself an higher education because I want to be involved in management, sports management. I'm working TV still on the Super League show. We'll mention it again.
so well trained.
Yeah.
He's on the first show.
So, you know, yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to do, and that's where I want to go in the game. I don't want to be a coach, right? Because you can have a 3-year contract as a coach, right? But you're only ever on a 6-week one because if you lose 6 games in a row, you're out of there. So I want a bit more stability in my life than that. And yeah, so that's where I want to go.
I've been fortunate to add a lot of strings to my bow. I mentioned Leeds Met University. I did a degree there, graduated in 2007. And actually, when we talk about walking up to get Challenge Cup and Grand Final medals, that was up there with that. You know, going up and getting the shaking the hand in all the kit. Fantastic experience. Done a lot of stuff with the Leeds Rugby Foundation. I love the work that they do in the community. And as I said, not just as a rugby player, but as a dad, I see the value in what they do. So trying out there. Started doing a little bit of television stuff, not quite at BBC, you know, seeing Made in Leeds. You've
done the Super League show.
High profile channel there that we've been starting on. I've been writing a few columns, and you know, I spoke to Gary Etherington, and he said, you know, there'll be something there for me when I finish playing. The thing I enjoy most is the coaching. I know JP said he didn't bother, he's not so bothered, but I've coached since I was 18 years old. I started back at Stanley, I did scholarships, service area. At one point I was coaching every single night and Saturday, Sunday when I was young before I had my boys. And then I did under 16s at Leeds for 3 years. So Brad Singleton, Stevie Ward, coached all them when they're coming through, and that is the most gratifying thing outside of playing. So if you work on something all week and you see a young kid go and put on a new pass that he's practiced, or the team put on a great move, it's almost as good as scoring a try when you're playing. And I love the interaction with the young boys and seeing them come through and giving back. So you know, for me, I'd love to do a bit of the youth development stuff when I finish.
Well, they've got a game at the weekend. A small matter of testimonial, if anyone wants to buy a ticket, they are still available. If you get any more inspirational journeys that are more inspirational than these two in these Carnegie conversations, you've done pretty well. Thank you to Jamie Peacock and Jamie Jones-Buchanan.